if you are looking for it, you could find it, but it was not right there on the surface, right? These were things that were happening behind closed doors, that were happening kind of under the surface, and you had to dig in and find the connections to make those arguments. Trump has, to this guy's point, brought all that to the surface. He openly says it. He's embracing it and wrapping his arms around it and doing a little bear hug and being like, "Oh, we love it so much." One of the best example, or not best examples, but a great example is this morning we had Barack Ravid, who I mention all the time, share, or maybe it was last night, this letter. Yeah, this is from 6 hours ago. President Trump sent this to Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel. And it is a letter lobbying for the pardon of Netanyahu, like to pardon Netanyahu.
Yeah, I noticed that. Wait, yeah. How do you think about this?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of different strategic reasons for Trump to do this. I mean, I'm of the belief that I think Trump orchestrated the charges in the first place, because those charges that were brought in 2019, which all things considered were kind of low-hanging fruit. And we've seen a mirror of that now in America, where some of the things that these high-profile people are being arrested and charged with, are kind of like process crimes almost. It's like lying to Congress, things that are very low-hanging fruit that are probably relatively easy to prove, but they are just scratching the surface when you talk about the levels of corruption that these people have engaged in, right? It's like charging Hillary Clinton with like campaign finance fraud, right? In spite of all the other things she's done. But I do think that this was brought against Netanyahu. I think Sheldon Adelson was probably one of the people who lobbied behind the scenes to get it brought against him, primarily because one of the charges involves Netanyahu going behind Adelson's back and trying to collude with the left-wing media oligarch in Israel to get better coverage of Netanyahu. And he said, "I will cut Adelson out, and I will not let his reporters get this kind of access that I will give your reporters." And my guess is that Trump, knowing Sheldon Adelson had a huge ego, is probably went to Adelson and was like, "Hey, look at what Netanyahu is doing to you. Like, he just stabbed you in the back. We should do something about this." Like, I could see that being the dynamic, where it's not Sheldon Adelson doing it out of some altruistic, let's get let's do the right thing for America. I could see it just as a game theory, as, hey, Sheldon Adelson, Netanyahu literally stabbed you in the back. We have a recording of him speaking to this guy, your arch rival in the media landscape. He's colluding with this guy against you. What are you going to do about it? And then Sheldon Adelson makes phone calls, flexes his muscles, and gets charges brought against Netanyahu. I mean, that's how I probably would speculate that happened. But it's all being prodded along by Trump. And by the way, all of his rhetoric that he delivers post 2019, after these charges are brought, in Israeli media, when he's speaking to people like Barack Ravid in interviews that never see the light of day in the American media, but are all over the place in Israel, he's always anti-Netanyahu every single time.
Yeah. I guess, it's good to hold out, like we've spoken about the issue of bicameral thinking, but you definitely want to hold a variety of hypotheses in the mind. Like for me, I try to keep, I think for all of us watching and doing the show, is, we try to keep as much of a top-down whole concept, a thumbnail sketch about the world, about as much of the past that we can think about contextually, that's shaping the dynamics in which our integrated world is unfolding, and the future orientation and the battles over what ideas of the future are clashing. Because we generally know in broad terms, not every detail, but we know in broad terms the essentials of what the oligarchical system wants. We know that they want, even though it takes different flavors, we know that they want world population reduction. We know that. We know they want to homogenize and mediocritize the culture and the religious institutions of the world to something very controllable. They want to make us more hedonistic and think that our spirituality emerges out of some erotic or hedonistic impulse instead of something higher, as the agapic sort of qualities that the human soul is endowed by when we're healthy and mature. They don't want us to access those sentiments. They want us to like live and be bounded by the lower sentiments that makes us more bestial, right? That locks us into the senses. We know that they want to make us more divided with ourselves as individuals, but also within communities, within nations, within families, divide to conquer, right? There's so many ways of doing that. So we know that these are like the general formulas, and whatever ideologies within that can be infused into schools, into books, into music, into movies that enhance those outcomes will be promoted, right? We know that. And we know that the more healthy view of natural law is premised on the opposite of all of those things, right? That makes us, that sees population growth as good because more people is more problem solvers, that, you know, that we can participate in the unfolding of creation as expressions of that creative process in more and more perfect ways.
God says, be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, he's not fucking around. He makes, sorry for the language, but he means it. So, but that means you got to be fruitful. If you're going to multiply, you can't multiply like cells in a jar or bacteria. You can't do it quantitatively alone. To multiply means that that quantitative growth of multiplication has to be justified and validated by qualitative growth, the fruitfulness. So prosperity. To be fruitful, yeah, you got to be creative. You got to really make technological and artistic leaps of excellence, right? And never allow yourself to get worse, to always get better, and to have a more perfect union. And I guess that's the healthier idea of a union, right? Like the American Revolution is, I think, a good example of a healthy ecumenicism, where you had so many different denominations, you know, Quakers and you know, there are how many different Calvinists and so many different Lutherans and so many different variations of Christianity that all had a lot of disputes amongst each other, but had to like work together for an outcome that was based in freedom. And so that would be, I think, just be a healthy idea. And it had to involve like the leaders of Morocco, Muslim leaders like Hyder Ali, who was the head of the Muslim rebellion against the British Empire in India, that was like writing letters to the Continental Congress saying that your fight is our fight against empire. That's like, again, you have like Muslim Indian leaders, Moroccan emperor Sidi Muhammad also writing to George Washington, protecting him from Barbary pirates. And you got like Eastern Orthodox leaders around Catherine the Great, also, you know, helping out the American Revolution. You got Catholics around Marquis de Lafayette and the French Revolution or the French Republicans who are coming in and working with the American troops. So you got all of these different religious like labels that see a common idea that freedom is the food that the soul needs to exist. We can't tolerate anything less, and we got to work together in some way. That's a healthy ecumenicism. That's just a good opportunity to just like insert that.
Yeah. And it's a good point because, you know, it's silly that the number of Christians that have killed each other over like silly tribalism of denominations, like, oh, well, your denomination is not my denomination. And then in Europe, you have wars over that, right? Over things that literally have nothing to do with the teachings of Jesus and specifically what he was instructing people to do. It's all interpretations that were layered on top of it later by biblical scholars that then become adopted as part of a central part of a doctrine. And then those differences in doctrine then drive people to kill each other. And so I agree with you. It's like there's a point where you throw all that stuff aside and say, well, that's silly. We shouldn't be like at each other's throats over that kind of stuff. So I would agree with you on that, the healthy ecumenicalism. If that's what all of this is and what I read in that pamphlet this morning, that's fine. That's
and that may not be it. What you read in the pamphlet may be totally satanic.
Yeah, well, it was just seeing that word after hearing how like liberal this church was, and that the church was not, and it wasn't the school, by the way, it was the church, like two different entities. The school was just a small little feature of the church. But then hearing that like it's considered controversial to teach toddlers about the Pledge of Allegiance, it's like that's retarded, literally retarded. And you know, that drives to your point, people like the human soul away from God when you have those kind of interpretations, when you have adults living in that kind of fear of ideas and words. That's what I think drives people and kills the human soul. And that kind of gets back to the point I was making at the beginning, where it's like going back to the fake world after spending days in a world where you can just openly discuss ideas and people don't get triggered by it. People actually like get it. You can see their eyes light up and they want to talk about this stuff. And then you go back to the world where everyone has dead eyes and they're like, they're just zombies going through their day. It's very dehumanizing, and it's all because people have been conditioned to fear ideas and fear discourse and fear discussion, while at the same time openly talking about how much they love freedom and they love the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, those are just hollow platitudes that a lot of people, even people within the MAGA truth movement, do not actually practice what they preach. And I think it's a real problem. But, if we want to touch on a few more of these.
Wait. Before we touch on some more practical examples, because this is like what often happens is you and I talk about these things that we want to do in the show, and then our love of ideas just causes a different organic pathway to just happen. It happens all the time, and I think it's a beautiful thing. That being said, we got 2 more ads that I'm just going to read the 2 ads right now, or just play them, and then we'll jump on any points you want to get at in the last
and I know you have a hard stop, so just pull the ripcord when you need to, and if I need to wind things down, I can do that solo. So
all right, so I'm gonna play My Shroom Vibe and then something on Tallow. Here we are. Wow, Tallow's big these days. Anyway, okay, here's My Shroom Vibe.
Hey there, Earthlings. I'm here on the streets of New York to tell you about something that's literally out of this world. Traveling between dimensions really takes it out of you. But I've found the perfect solution. My Shroom Vibe can now be your Shroom Vibe. Elevate your frequency. Get microdose capsules, gummies, and chocolate bars at myshroomvibe.com. Use code BADLANDS for 10% off your order. Trust me, galaxy hopping demands balance, and ours comes from Mother Nature. Organic, not synthetic. It's the real deal. Sai Lee, if you know what I mean. Check it out. Your frequency will thank you. Visit myshroomvibe.com. Organic goodness, not synthetic. Use code BADLANDS.
What the hell was that? All right. Anyway, so, okay. Yeah, that just happened. So let me just do the SD
Vibes is a new sponsor that promotes like psilocybin as for mental health, mental clarity stuff. And I was talking to G Money about it over the weekend because that was a sponsor that he had brought on. So
Okay. All right. Yep. Okay, good. Sure. SD Tallow coming up here.
Before skincare went synthetic, people used something simple, something real: tallow. Grass-fed and finished beef tallow is packed with vitamins A, D, E, and K. Nutrients your skin actually knows what to do with. It locks in moisture, restores elasticity, and defends against winter dryness. No water, no preservatives, and no BS. Unlike plant oils or chemical creams, tallow mimics your skin's own structure. Elbows, hands, knees, post-shave, anywhere your skin's crying for real moisture. Perfect for gifting or keeping your own skin soft when the cold hits. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code BADLANDS for 15% off. Ancient Care, modern truth.
Soft disclosure.
Okay, so we got about 10 minutes to go. So what points do you want to hammer at fast? And by the way, I just want to say one thing on props to you so far. I got to say, when you first threw out your hypothesis that Trump may still be meeting with Putin after it was canceled in Budapest, I was like, it sounds like a stretch there, Gord. Sounds like a stretch. And then here it is. Trump just came out saying after meeting with Orban, yeah, it's likely that he'll meet still with Putin in Hungary. So more points to your hypothesis there. We'll see where it goes, but hats off. If I was wearing a hat, I would quickly remove it.
Yeah. And I think it'll probably happen sooner than people think. I mean, maybe even before before Christmas, before the end of the new year, we'll see. But Budapest certainly is a symbolic choice. I believe that's where Ukraine and Russia met in the early 90s to resolve like the breakup of the Soviet Union. Ukraine, I believe, gave up their nuclear weapons in exchange for statehood, like independent of Russia. And Budapest, I think, is another great symbolic place because number one, it's the hometown of Soros. They banned Soros like 10 years ago. Like he's not allowed to go to Hungary. Or Viktor Orban, I think, has been one of Trump's great allies in the geopolitical landscape. I was very encouraged when I was there in 2017, seeing them tearing down the communist buildings and rebuilding the old Baroque ones, which was considered controversial among their population because, it's investing state funds into architecture, basically. But the argument that Viktor Orban made was that it was all about restoring the culture and giving people a sense of national pride and unity and saying, this is what you come from. Be proud of it. Be proud of your parents. Be proud of your grandparents. Celebrate your culture. And I think that is worth every penny spent on bringing that to life because you see the contrast with places that haven't done that. America would be at the top of that list. And look at the current state of mental health in America, especially among young people. And to that point, I think one of the things that I think is really, really encouraging to what Trump is doing is the fact that right now there are so many people within MAGA who are angry with Donald Trump because of the things that he's saying and doing right now. Most recently, I believe he just did an interview where he talked about the H-1B thing, and like Laura Ingraham asked him about H-1B, and he said, no, we need H-1B because they're not enough skilled workers in America. He basically like forwarded the Vivek Ramaswamy argument from last year that got Vivek blown up by MAGA. And people are hair on fire, angry at Trump about it. I think all of this is good. Like, I think Trump is smart enough to know if I say this, it's going to piss off the base. I think he knows that. I think he has had his finger firmly on the pulse of the populist zeitgeist for 10 years. He knows exactly where all the pressure points are. He knows exactly what the buzzwords are and the ideas are that are going to trigger people. And the thing that I find really encouraging is that so much of MAGA is at this point, seems fully prepared to earnestly walk away from Trump if they have to, in order to preserve the movement itself and the ideas that Donald Trump has championed for the past 10 years. And what they're saying is, if Donald Trump is not going to finish this fight, like the fight that he claimed he was picking up as recently as last year during his campaign, then we will. And that is exactly what I think Donald Trump wants. I don't think he wants to become the God King. I don't think he wants to become, the guy that fixes everything. And so everybody else just rests on their laurels and says, whatever, like, bring it on, Trump, like, trust the plan, deliver us from evil, that kind of thing. I think he wants his legacy, or I would hope he would want his legacy to be re-energizing the American people. So after he's gone, there is an army of Donald Trump's prepared to do exactly what he has done over the past 10 years and pick up the mantle. That is what we want. That would be a successful MAGA movement. And you're seeing that across the board now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's either, there's a lot of evidence to show that there actually is a bit of like there are theatrics right now that are designed to do exactly what you've been saying, to inflame certain emotions, to amplify certain tones that would normally be too silent for the ear to hear, but by amplifying and caricaturizing them, it can make them audible, which is necessary if we're going to be able to identify evil. So, and I noticed that you're queuing up a little image there. I think of the head shopper and Trump having met at the White House, right? Is that what you got?
Yeah,
there?
yeah. So
it's an example of that.
Yeah. So here's a perfect example. He brings Jelani in, Shara, they call him now, Jelani, in on Monday. It's the 250th anniversary birthday of the Marine Corps. We like CanCon and Alpha had a cake at GART. They sang the song. They did a whole celebration at the welcome party on Friday night. They brought up all the Marines who were at GART, and they did a whole presentation. So Monday was the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. On that day, he brings a guy who is known by the State Department, $10 million bounty on his head 10 months ago for being an Al-Qaeda leader and an ISIS leader, to the extent that Jelani had to come out and like defend himself in the media and say, I had nothing to do with 9/11, even though I was friends with all those guys, right? he even went and did an interview on Fox News. You had an Al-Qaeda ISIS leader doing a interview on Fox News.
Yeah.
That is how clownish the entire world has become. And Trump, and if you don't think that Trump understood, I'm bringing this guy on the day before Veterans Day, on the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, because that was all over the zeitgeist, where people were bringing up that coincidence, right? Here's this little exchange I thought was a funny. This was kind of like the nod and the wink. There are many moments like this, but here's just one of them.
This is men's fragrance. Yeah. This is no. It's the best fragrance. Come here, man.
I have more here, sir.
Okay. So
I love how
Jelani
was really taken aback, and he kind of tried to get away from this fragrance.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, do you see the thing he's holding? I'm pretty sure this is like a Trump. This is like a Trump branded, cologne he's giving him. Look, I mean, is that Donald Trump, like a statue of him on the? I think it might be a statue of him on the. He's literally sitting there hosing this guy down with cologne, him and his assistant. He's explaining to him how great the fragrance is. Listen to what he says next, though. This is the funniest part.
So what we'll do is just take that, Joe, put it in, and then the other one is for your wife. How many wives?
For what?
You guys, I never know, right? I never know.
He says the other one I'm giving you is for your wife. How many wives do you have? And he says one. He goes, with you guys, I never know.
That was pretty good.
I mean, it's like, he's trolling so hard, and it's very obvious that this Jelani guy was a television character that was created by the CIA. I think he was like the way they did in that Iron Man 3 movie, where they make like a joke of it, where it's like a British actor playing the Muslim terrorist on television. That's what this is too. And clearly this guy is no longer working for whoever he was working for before, just like the Kim Jong-un. I don't think is controlled by the CIA the way that maybe he was before. And the fact that Turkey was in the room, like, did you see the surprise arrival of Turkey?
Yeah, the foreign minister showed up there. What's his name?
Hakan Fidan. Hakan Fidan. And the best part is that Sunday night, Turkey, the foreign ministry of Turkey, puts out like a statement, just a one-sentence statement. It just says, Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan is going to join the meeting at the White House tomorrow. And what the international press was saying is Hakan Fidan even in D.C.? Like, we didn't even know he had flown over to D.C.
Yeah, I was really surprised,
Secretly flew over to D.C., and then the announcement was, oh, yeah, he's going to be at the meeting. And that's because Turkey, I think, is this guy's handler.
Yeah, it's possible, and I know you threw out the idea, and I think there's something to it that Turkey's been given jurisdiction to be the steward, the manager of that region, at least for the time being. Might also account for the plane, the military plane, the transport plane that was shot down, or not shot down. It crashed above Georgia. No.
It fell apart. It
fell apart, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. Is there any information pertaining to who might have done that yet coming up, or is it totally opaque?
I haven't seen anything yet. There was, but there was some pilots in the chat yesterday who made some good points. They said that the engines were still running on the 4 propellers as it was falling down. There was no explosion. It was a clean cut. You can clearly see all the pieces that are falling down. You can clearly see just a straight line. There wasn't like a jagged line. There was no fire. There was, none of that. It was like somebody went in and unscrewed all the ratchets, and just at a certain point it just fell apart in the air. I mean, I don't know, but it could just be weak steel. I mean, who knows? But it's certainly it looks like sabotage. I mean, it looks like sabotage to me.
Yeah. So that this appearance of the foreign minister at this meeting definitely would be a factor to bring into that calculus, as far as like triangulating in on what interests might not want Turkey to be involved as a dominant power within that region, maybe communicating some message. So that's relevant for sure. A couple of other points that I guess are worth like just hashing out quickly, which is Ukraine. Definitely a lot of blows struck against Kiev. We're talking about Nazis, unreconstructed Nazis, multi-generational Nazi revisionist movements and what their effects are. And then we're talking about Ukraine, because all of the disaster of what's been going on in Ukraine as a chess piece on the board of the great game could not have been possible were it not for a hard pro-Nazi, even I would say occult inner sanctum that's been groomed and incubated for a long time and weaponized, deployed by various CIA, MI6 protected agencies to be weapons against Russia as a proxy. So that's been running now for quite a number of years. And what we've seen is Russia taking back a lot of territory and evidence of a certain shifting wind or a sea change inside of Ukraine itself, where I know back in 2023, Kolomoskoy, a billionaire financier behind, seems also the shoot down of the plane that was leaving Iranian airspace in January of 2020. That was actually Kolomoskoy had his fingers on that in a number of ways through the air traffic control system that he also co-controlled through his organization, his private bank, his Gazprom, not Gazprom, sorry, his Burisma holdings operation. So many points of evil have been sort of made possible by this guy who's been detained now for 2 years for crimes for money laundering. He's been forced to pay or been told to pay, I think by a UK court, $3 billion to Privet Bank that he laundered money out of. Over the years, his billionaire collaborator, Bogolyubov, I can't pronounce that name, has escaped arrest from Ukraine by, I don't know where he went, maybe Turkey or something. So we've got now that, we've got FBI probes that have zeroed in on 2 other former backers of Zelensky, the Zuckerman brothers. So it seems like you do have some shifting of the gears going on. What's your take on the Ukraine?
For some reason, you repeat what you just said. For some reason, it just froze. Like your face just froze for me, and I didn't get any sound.
Yeah, I just said sorry. What's your take on the Ukraine front based on all of that stuff before we phase out?
Yeah, I mean, it seems that it's reaching a crescendo because you have Trump, who has now forced NATO to bankrupt itself in order to continue to fund the war. I just saw this morning that they're now going to lower the draft age further. I think it was already at like 26. They were speculating they're going to lower it to 18. Angelina Jolie, we were laughing about this over the weekend, was there last week. Chris Paul was speculating that maybe she might actually be dating Zelensky now. Apparently, Katy Perry is dating Justin Trudeau. So he's like, this is not out of the realm of possibilities that we have an arranged Hollywood couple here. But her car was pulled over and her driver, who's Ukrainian, was dragged away and conscripted into the Ukrainian military. And she went down to the recruitment office and said, do you know who I am? And they were like, yeah, we don't care. This is Ukraine. He's going to go fight and die in Russia. I mean, it's so farcical that it's almost funny. I mean, then you have the video of the Ukrainian general that I put in the news brief lamenting the fact that he says 200,000 Ukrainian soldiers have literally just walked away from the front lines and deserted the army. So you have them like dragging younger and younger men away to go die against the Russian war machine. Meanwhile, including like celebrities or celebrity security guards. Meanwhile, you have Ukrainian generals lamenting the fact that hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are allegedly deserting the army because they don't want to die in the Russian war machine. And then meanwhile, you have the Republican Party full throat, Lindsey Graham, like shrieking like a harpy in ecstasy at all the bloodshed and the people dying around the world in these kind of conflicts. It's just, it couldn't be more clear who the bad guys are. I mean, if you haven't figured out that the neocons and the Republican Party are the bad guys, then I don't know what to tell you. And I think we owe Donald Trump a tremendous thank you for making that abundantly clear. Like the GOP is not the future of MAGA.
Well,
and they want to be the future of MAGA. And if they become the future of MAGA, that is our failure, not Donald Trump's failure.
Yeah. Well, definitely the only thing viable that I see in the United States is what has emerged out of the MAGA movement. As confused as that movement is, the only thing moral enough that has the fiber to validate its existence is coming out of that movement. So I agree with you on those points. I would just add, while keeping this hypothesis of what is the subtle undercurrents in play, I would also say too, like I've got multiple hypotheses in my mind at the same time. Now, it's possible. It would be sad, very tragic, if the choice to bring in Jelani on the anniversary of the celebration of the U.S. Marines, if that was a sick joke, that would be very unfortunate. You know, the what is it? You know, that golden calf being brought into Mar-a-Lago filled with $100 bills with Donald Trump's face on it that people might have seen.
Yep.
You know, maybe he's doing the amplification of the Babylonian sort of, or this, you know, worship of Mammon sickness, and he's just exacerbating it by showcasing the ugliness of what that is. It might be a Rosicrucian operation. I'll just say that. It might be.
Absolutely.
If it is, take it as it is, you know, but that would be unfortunate. And we shouldn't, again, go all nihilistic, as some would be psychologically inclined to do. Because if people watch this movie, okay, a lot of the template that I've noticed over the last century has been organized around predictive programming of fiction. H.G. Wells, his War of the Worlds, as well as his nonfiction. A lot of the stuff wasn't done just to entertain. It was done to guide the hand of those who would be organizing this post-human blueprint and how to create the stories and the narratives that would be used by social engineers to herd and corral society in direction. So H.G. Wells' stories are done specifically for that purpose, you know, create an enemy from above. How would humanity unite to fight an invader from Mars, let's say? There's a bunch of things. I made a whole documentary on this. Similarly, if you look at some of the horror movie creators, including the guy who made They Live in 1989, featuring Roddy Piper. People should watch that movie, because I think that sort of thing, if you think about what a nihilistic MAGA psychology might become, if it's broken of a dream of a golden age, if that somehow gets crushed, a lot of people would become what you see Roddy Piper doing in that movie, to fight these shape-shifting lizards that have taken over society, created globalization, to bring about a depopulation. And they're not human. They look human, but when you wear the special glasses, they're not. And it's okay thus to kill them and go into banks and shopping malls, shooting up the place. That's possible. Or the general from what's it? The Strangelove movie, Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove.
Learn to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. That general, who's all obsessed about how the communists want to steal our bodily fluids, and is willing to like go anarchistic and like shoot up and declare war on the U.S. military, which is controlled by commies. That represents an archetype. There's a psychological archetype that's more than the character, but that represents something which can be infused hypnotically into a people and then invoked at a certain time if the conditions are met. So that's something people have to look for if there's traces or elements of that within our own psyche, so that we could avoid falling for emotional traps if that's triggered. That being said, I really do hope that behind the threats, the ugly words pertaining to the threatened military invasion of Nigeria, of Venezuela, of Iran, of China, behind the ugly words, there's actually beautiful maneuvers being made around a sovereign alliance. I hope that that's true. But action is everything. So far, I haven't seen any evil sorts of actions to justify my attacking Trump. So I'm going to still hold out hope that the sovereign alliance hypothesis is in play. But again, I don't know. I can't say with the certainty that I'm fully on board anything at this moment. So we'll see.
Well, I see Maggie in the chat talking about Julian's Rum. Julian's Rum used to have a show here on Badlands, and love Julian's Rum. I think he's been a great commentator. He's also somebody who I think is black-pilled a little bit on Trump, and is openly talking about how like disappointed he is with how with what Trump is saying right now regarding the H-1B1 thing, but also how Trump was attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene the other day because MTG was saying, you know, the economy is not fixed. The price of goods have actually gone up, and people are getting crushed under the current condition, their current living standards, and which is 100% true, 100% true. And Trump saying, yeah, like that's all nonsense. Don't believe any of that. That's all a psyop. Again, I think Trump is knowing he's antagonizing people who can ostensibly refute that and say, no, that's actually not true. And I saw JR was posting this morning about, he's like, I know I'll never own a home. I know that I'll never have the things that my parents had because of the economic conditions of our time. And that is really, really depressing. But again, I go back to the fact that people are prepared to drop Trump if they feel like Trump has betrayed the cause, which I don't think he has. But I think he is flexing that a little bit because he can, because I think it's all going to come full circle. But he has the bandwidth right now, I think, to afford to be able to do these kind of things, because if everything does work out, those people will come back and they'll say, okay, this all worked out. But he's testing the limits, I think, of our patience. And it's good to do that. It's good to know where those limits are. And I think the more people push back and say, you know what, if Trump's not going to do it, we're going to do it. If Trump is not going to finish the mission, we're going to go finish the mission. And that is the mentality that everybody needs to adopt. Not trust the plan, not whatever the God King says goes, not, okay, well, Trump says today that, you know, maybe we should do H1B1. Maybe we should sell out the country to the globalists. Maybe we should, you know, embrace ISIS and Al-Qaeda as something great, which is not what Trump is saying, but I'm just saying the optics of Giuliani being there. I think that's a humiliation ritual against the neocons who built this guy up for years as like this evil entity. And now Trump's parading him around DC and forcing him to meet with the very people who used to say a year ago that he was a bad guy. I think it's a humiliation ritual, but you know, this, that, or the other, if the guy does deliver peace to the Middle East, because he's being forced to, that's something that I think is very positive. The fact that the Saudis have paid off the entire IMF debt, so the IMF can't come in and requisition everything in Syria and get the sanctions lifted by Trump, which is what has happened now. The fact that next Tuesday, before you and I speak again, the Saudis are coming to DC, and I think we are going to get some of the biggest bilateral trade announcements we've ever seen thus far. Next Tuesday afternoon, I think we're going to get a nuclear deal. I think we're going to get a massive military equipment sales deal, which will signal us leaving the Middle East for good, and the Saudis and the Turks and the Qataris taking over security in the Middle East, in spite of Israel, because Israel does not want Saudi to get any of this stuff. All of this is just going to be backhanded moves that are backhanding Netanyahu, backhanding the Israelis consistently, while going out there and saying nobody loves Israel more than Donald Trump. Nobody has done more for Israel than Donald Trump. You know, Mark Levin and Laura Loomer saying Qatar is the greatest enemy America could face right now. And then an hour later, Trump is on the tarmac in Qatar, and Tamim is literally coming to his plane and prostrating himself before Trump like he is the king of the world. You know, it's like, and then Trump grabs him by the hand and is like, I love this guy so much. It's like, it's there, but it's also not. There's plausible deniability, but it's there. It's like every single moment that the regime thinks it has a new attack vector, Trump just totally rug pulls them, and does it in a way, by the way, that gets the base angry at him, so that people are, you know, up in arms and energized, and you know, the same way we were energized when Joe Biden was president, which we shouldn't lose that energy. That energy should carry forward forever. You know.
Well said, Gordon. We live in damn interesting time. I really have to say, it's quite a time to be alive. I appreciate always these conversations. And next week we might have to do a pre-record. Otherwise I might be in a flight back home while the show. So we'll talk about that. But thank you everybody for watching today's episode of Breaking History, and look forward to the next one. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.